not only do they say they love Jesus, but like they have looked at it from a scientific
Wow.
perspective.
Mhm.
They've looked at it through the lens of engineering. They've done the research
Mm.
in their field of study, but also how does my field of study match what Scripture says? And they've really done some strong, long, hard work. And like when they say they believe in Jesus, like they really believe in Jesus.
The golden hour, hey, any way you slice it. Tennessee is a mission field. The golden hour, hey, everyone's invited. We making changes, and that's for real. The golden hour.
Hello and welcome to the Tennessee Golden Hour. My name is Matt Tullis.
And I'm Beth Moore.
Well, it's great to see you, Beth. I'm a little road weary. Just got back from Knoxville. Had a great time at Buffett Heights Baptist Church.
Cool.
And a really cool mission celebration there. I hope your weekend was good.
Yes, just here in Nashville trying to stay cool in the hot weather.
Fantastic. And I understand that this Sunday is a really special Sunday. Could you tell us?
Yes, this Sunday is the Collegiate Day of Prayer. August 11th will be the Collegiate Day of Prayer. And so many of our BCMs are doing special prayer walks. It's just a time for our churches to pray for our collegiate ministers, our college students across the state that are moving back to campus, getting started, for all the things this fall.
Yeah, so much is riding on our BCMs because they really are the future leaders of our churches, and as well as doing missions just all over the place. In fact, we've got BCM summer missionaries that are just wrapping up and
That's
coming
right.
back and getting ready to load up for another great year of BCM ministry.
Yeah.
And before we do anything else, I wanted to share with you and our audience just a world premiere video
Ooh.
about a great story of BCM work.
While I was interning in the student ministry at Forest Hills, I began to have conversations with Chad about what would it look like for me to go into ministry, and I felt like God was kind of pulling me in that direction, but I didn't really know what that looked like.
I threw out the idea of really leaning into some of our BCM ministers that are serving so well on our collegiate campuses across Tennessee. What if we got to hear how God called them to ministry? What was their path toward ministry? How did they do school and serve on campuses? And so we began to plan a trip out across the eastern part of our state. And we met with Jonathan Chapman, who's the BCM director there at East Tennessee State University. And we met for breakfast on May 4th. And before we knew it, the Lord was working, and Jonathan ended up offering Cole a job to serve as an associate at the BCM.
Cole came to the BCM at a pivotal time. We had been growing, literally doubling the last 2 years before he had arrived. And so becoming our campus missionary and working with us was incredible because he was able to have so much impact on students at the time, not only from an evangelistic standpoint, but from a discipleship standpoint.
Through my 2 years working at the ETSU BCM with Jonathan, he really showed me what it was like to be in collegiate ministry, but in giving me the opportunities to do ministry, I gained confidence and I understood what it looked like and all the levels of collegiate ministry. And so as I went on from there, I was very confident that this is where God was calling me.
So one of the cool things, in October of 21, Cole had finished up seminary and an opportunity came available at Belmont. And I was so excited to see him be able to go over there and serve there. Ironically, a little bit later on, Micah's having a conversation with me, very similar to Cole, about what the future of ministry looks like. Do I need to be doing college ministry, young adult? What does that look like?
I was sitting in Jonathan's office, just pouring my heart out, struggling with the call to ministry. I'd love to be mentored by pastors in a local ministry context and learn how to do ministry there. And while I'm pouring out my heart to Jonathan saying, I don't know how we're going to do this, Chad Mize emails Jonathan and says, hey, do you have any students that are graduating that are wanting to learn how to do ministry in a local church context? And Jonathan said, yeah, he's right in front of me.
Forest Hills had the privilege of bringing Micah on as one of our first ministry residents. And guess what? Micah is also serving on our college campuses with our collegiate ministry at Forest Hills, where he also gets to serve in the same spaces as Cole Rogers. What I didn't know is that while Cole was serving at the BCM with Jonathan, Cole was discipling Micah.
Over the course of my years at ETSU, I was invested in by many people. Jonathan poured into me, mentored me, and kind of showed me how to live as a believer. And Cole Rogers also poured into me and discipled me, having weekly meetings and showing me what it looked like to be a young man who had responded to the Lord's call and ministry on my life. The investments from the people at the BCM and from other students around me altered the course of my life forever and helped me respond positively to what the Lord was doing in my life.
At Forest Hills, we've always believed in collaborative ministry through our local conventions. And the Tennessee Baptist Mission Board has really served to be a catalyst for equipping those that we've sent out and also discipling those that we've sent to college campuses. And in this story, we've really seen all sides of that equation really work for the glory of God, the furtherance of the gospel, and really the equipping of the saints for the work of service in the local church.
As Tennessee Baptists give through the cooperative program and the Golden Offering for Tennessee Missions, they make it possible for BCMs to disciple students and also to send them back out as leaders into our local churches here in Tennessee, but also around the world.
One of my favorite people, Tiffany Hudson, is here with us. She is the BCM director at Vanderbilt. How are you, Tiffany?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
We're glad to have you here.
Yeah.
Tiffany and I have been knowing each other for a long time.
That's right. You have Louisiana connection.
Yes, we do. We served for the Louisiana Baptist Convention and now the Tennessee Baptist Mission Board. I'm just following her everywhere.
Well, I followed Tiffany into her previous role when she was BCM director at Belmont and Sin Tennessee Missions as well. I followed her into that role when she moved to Vandy.
Yeah.
So
how's your morning been? Just easy. It's summer for BC, right?
Yeah, right. It's been a little bit chaotic of 2 kids and 2 separate tennis lessons
Okay.
and trying to get here. But yeah, summer's a little bit of juggling like family life and work life and trying to do all the things, trying to spend some extra time with family, but also try to get things ready and set up for the fall so
Yeah.
that we're ready to go. So it's a big mix. It's a little more complicated. It takes a lot more planning than the school year just because we send our kids off to school at 7:15 in the morning and
Yeah.
we just go to work. But in the summer, it takes a little bit more planning, but
Mhm.
we also get some good family time. So yeah.
And so BCM directors are chilling most of the summer?
Yeah, no. We take some time. We still take our PTO. We do it the right way. But we spend a lot of time planning for the
Mhm.
fall. There's just a lot of effort that goes into Welcome Week and even in the summer connecting with the incoming students. A lot of that is through social media. And then there's a lot of like building upkeep and painting projects and landscaping and
Right.
cleaning out and buying supplies so that you're ready. So, yeah, I would like to say that we just
Yeah.
sit back and read books. So we do a good bit of reading, but there's a lot more
Yeah.
to it than
Right.
just chilling in the summer.
Yeah.
So.
Could you tell us a little bit about your call to ministry and the journey God has had you on to be here in Tennessee?
Yeah. I'm from Virginia, so I grew up as a Virginia Baptist and a good old Baptist and went to GA camp, Girls in Action, and then Act Teens, and that's really where I surrendered my life to Jesus. And so, but I really feel like I can look at my life and see just the continual thread that the Lord has woven. And it really started there, like when I
Right.
was, a kid at GA camp and didn't really understand what it meant to follow Jesus, but knew it was the right thing to do. But through that camp is really when I got to know what BCM was. So I was a camper, and then when I turned 16, I was like, I'm gonna get a summer job, and it still blows my mind that at 16 I was in charge of like 14 girls in a cabin. Like we did that, but I really was working alongside a lot of my friends became people that were involved in their Baptist collegiate ministries
Mhm.
on their college campus, and so I ended up choosing my college because of the friends that I made and really truly because of the BCMs. And so I went to Vanderbilt University in Danville, Virginia. It was a small Baptist college when I started, and it was just a college when I finished.
Yeah.
But I really just kind of learned ministry and BCM and thought, oh, I think I'm called to this. And I was a religion major in college. And then when I graduated in December of that year, and I didn't at that time like you had to be in school to have your parents' insurance. And so my real reason for like continuing on in education was I need insurance, so I'm just gonna graduate in December and start seminary in January. And just the Lord was like, no, not yet. And so actually through that had an opportunity to serve as a campus missionary at the university in my hometown. And so that was really my first taste of ministry outside of college, outside of like just being a student and being involved and being on BCM leadership. And so at that point, I kind of started falling in love with it. And then I did end up going to seminary the next semester, ended up in New Orleans in Louisiana. And so that was the year after Katrina hit. And so
Wow.
it was very much a rebuild. And so when I got there, again, I had some old camp friends and they were like, hey, we're restarting collegiate ministry in the city. Come help us. And so ended up doing that. So honestly, the thread is I started in camp ministry. I continued in camp ministry, but camp ministry is highly staffed by college students that are
Yeah.
involved
Right.
in collegiate
I
ministries.
served in camps.
So that's really where, and then Lord just like kept giving me college ministry jobs. And so I graduated seminary, ended up at Sherwood Baptist Church in Georgia, and I worked the front desk. I filled in the music office for a little bit and finally landed in the collegiate ministry. And at that point, I looked back and I thought, I think this is what I'm created to do. And so it was just kind of one of those
Yeah.
things where the Lord wasn't like, hey, here you go. This is what you're called to do in life. He just kept giving me opportunities. And I kept, after a time, I like, they say hindsight's 2020. Like I look back with a clear vision of like, oh, I think that all these things have led me to this place. And like, this is what the Lord has called me to and gifted me for.
I think it's so cool when you talk about rebuilding that ministry after Katrina, just knowing I was still working at Belmont during COVID and you were at Vandy, and we were two of the universities across the Tennessee BCMs that had the most restrictions for the longest time.
Yeah.
So when things were finally lifted, you really had to rebuild BCM at Vanderbilt University.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, tell us what that's been like.
Yeah, it's been it's kind of one of those things you don't realize how far, again, you don't realize how far you've come until you look back and you're like, "Oh, hey, look, there's like a lot of people here now and we started with 5." But yeah, the COVID restrictions at Vanderbilt were really insane. Um and we work really hard. I work really hard in coaching our students that we're going to follow the university policies. And so I was a stickler for that. And that meant not doing a lot of things that we would normally do. Just to give a picture of what the restrictions look like, obviously full mask mandates. But like the university went so far as to put up tents on campus, like outside with tables. Like those were study areas. If you were going to gather with people, you had to check into a tent so that you were outside and, of course, social distance. They would paint circles on the ground that
Wow.
were like 6 feet apart.
That'd be
And
difficult
so
in the winter. I would think.
it was interesting. So yeah, we did some things. I revived some things that we actually did in New Orleans of like make a friend in 5 minutes and like you'd sit out on the lawn. Like we sat a chair in one of the painted circles and we sat another chair in the other painted circle, and we had questions that we would just try to sit and have conversations with students. And so it was very high restrictions. But now I look back and there are things that we do now because we did them then. And one of our biggest events the last couple of years has been during Welcome Week, we take a trip to Jenny's. And this year we're actually not doing it the way that we've been doing it. We started doing it where we would meet on campus, walk to Jenny's because
Jenny's ice cream. For
Jenny's
those
ice
that
cream.
don't,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
best ice cream ever.
delicious ice
Yeah.
cream. Goat cheese and cherries is the best. Don't knock it till you try it. It's so good. Sounds weird, but it's really good. But we started walking there because it's a 5-10 minute walk from campus, but it gave us a chance to be outdoors, to social distance, but also have conversations with students. But last year we had like over 100 students, and so
Wow.
we can't, like Jenny's was like not happy. And we were like, okay, we gotta revamp this. So this year we're gonna they have what they call street treats, and they're
Okay.
like to go basically, and so we're gonna like bring those to campus. But that was a whole event that started because we knew that we could still meet, but we had to be outside. And we wanted to be able to like meet students and get to know them and connect with them. And so it's kind of a tradition that started several years ago,
Yeah.
like almost 5 now.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so it was hard, but we learned a lot, and you kind of got to take a step back and look at like what's working and what's not. And there was like just a free reign to go, let's try something new.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been fun and exciting to see, and it's totally the Lord's power. Like, it's not me, it's not, our students we're putting in work, we're putting in time and effort, but the Lord's just blessing it, and so it's fun.
About a year and a half ago, I had an opportunity to join you on Beach Reach just as a driver.
Oh, wow.
I didn't stay, but wow. Those students, they're different kind of students, different breed of students,
They're
the
brilliant.
Vanderbilt. But I loved it. And they were so committed to the Lord. And it was so great to be with them. And I just want to ask you, because Beth, you've been a BCM minister and you are a BCM minister, and I have never been in BCM. What does a typical week look like for BCM ministers
Yeah.
in the semesters?
I jokingly tell people that I have meals and drink coffee with students
Yeah.
all day, every day,
Yeah.
which is not fully true, but not fully untrue.
Right.
Yeah.
But we do have I spend a lot of time with students over coffee and the Bible, and it's just fun. That's what
Yeah.
you get to do, and you get to walk life with them, and whatever they're walking through that day or that week, or
Mhm.
in their school life and what's going on academically, social life, but also a lot of times it's what's going on back home, or how
Yeah.
do I, my parents are unbelievers, or I'm the only believer in my family, or this, my grandmother is, really, really sick,
Mhm.
and my parents are here and I'm here, and what do I do? And or how do I find a church? Those kinds of things. So you really get to walk through life with students, which is probably my favorite part.
Hmm.
But we have some weekly events that we do. A lot of our BCMs across the state, you'll see some similar patterns. At Vanderbilt, we have a weekly free lunch. And we really feel like that's our open door. That's our outreach to campus at Vanderbilt. That the fact that we're offering something for free with no strings attached is really an anomaly. They're like, wait, why do you do this? And we're like, because Jesus loves you. And like, we want to sit around the table and talk to you about that. And so our churches come and bring food, and we just sit around the table, and we've got, we got believers, strong believers that sit and have gospel conversations. We've got international students that have never heard the gospel ever. We've got Jewish students, which is really fun. We're
Yeah.
like, you're so close. But like, Jesus loves you, and he really is more than a prophet. And so it's just fun. So we do that on Wednesdays. On Thursday mornings, we have a coffee cart, and we've gotten known as the Baptist are out with the coffee. And it's like, yes, like we
That's
want to
awesome.
be known that. So you hand out free coffee, and just to be present on campus, just to like kind of knock down some of those walls, especially in religion, and just kind of the polarization of the world that we live in now. Just to go, hey, like, here's a free coffee, and like, we'd love for you to come have lunch with us next week. And then Thursday nights we have a worship gathering, and so that looks different every semester. But we have worship, and then we have speakers come in, and so we've done a mental health focus. We did kind of a walk through the whole Bible, just a fast track through last semester. And then this semester, we're looking at the life of David, but particularly matching his life story with the psalm
Oh,
that
that'll
was
be
written.
good.
So excited about
That's
that. So
great.
that's kind of a typical week. Yeah. And we'll have
Not too much, just yeah.
just a little bit.
Yeah.
So
So what is God doing right now at Vanderbilt? How are you seeing him moving
I'll
in these
say
last?
I'm entering my 6th year, which is really crazy to think about. And before I came to Vanderbilt, my perception of the university, which some was true and some I've learned that weren't true,
Mhm.
is that my perception was that it was a very secular university,
Mhm.
that it was very anti-Christian, that there weren't a lot of Christians on campus standing up for their faith. It is a very secular university. The majority of the students are not from Tennessee. They're not from the Bible Belt.
Right.
They're, a majority of them are from the West Coast or the Northeast. And so you have this huge melting pot of worldview, religious views, and just upbringing is very, very different. But the thing that has surprised me, and the thing that I was wrong about, is that there are way more Christians on campus than I ever
Mm.
anticipated.
Mm.
And that includes both students and faculty and staff.
Mhm.
And when you find them, they're really true, strong, genuine believers, and they're like you talked about it, Matt. Like these students are different. They're brilliant. And
They are.
when Bill came, our boss, Bill Choate, when he came to me and asked me about considering the position, my first response was, "I'm not smart enough," and that really wasn't a knock on myself. Like I wasn't putting myself down. Like
Yeah.
I recognize the academic level. Like 36,000 students get turned away from Vanderbilt every year. Like that's a huge amount of students
Right.
that are brilliant that don't even get in. And so the
Yeah.
acceptance rate is 6%. It's very highly competitive. Like these students
Mhm.
they're smart, and professors obviously have to match that
Right.
academic
Right.
level.
Yeah.
They did it. Those students learned it from them, and those professors, like the ones that I've met that really truly love Jesus, like not only do they say they love Jesus, but like they have looked at it from a scientific
Wow.
perspective.
Mhm.
They've looked at it through the lens of engineering. They've done the research
Mhm.
in their field of study, but also how does my field of study match what scripture says? And
Mhm.
they've really done some strong, long, hard work. And like when they say they believe in Jesus, like they really believe in Jesus. And so it's challenging, it's encouraging, but yeah, so it's different than what I thought, but there are some really strong believers on campus. Sometimes, it feels like that we're the minority, and there is a sense of oppression against Christianity. But the bond that brings,
Mhm.
and with BCM and other Christian organizations on campus, we have this bond of like, no, like we believe that God is doing something here, and let's join together, let's bind together, let's reach this campus, let's share Jesus.
Yeah.
And so it can be a sad, like depressing place to be, but also the opportunity is just
Yeah.
ginormous, and that part is exciting to me.
As we look at it from a church's perspective, looking at BCM ministry, it's such a big part of the Tennessee Baptist Mission Board. But what could churches do to support the ministry of BCMs across our state, or
Yeah.
BCMs that are 10 miles away?
Yeah. I would say first and foremost, just pray.
Mm.
Like pray for those college ministers there. Like we work long hours. Those hours are not usually the daytime hours. A lot of them
Right.
are evening
Right.
time, and late nights. That's when college students have their free time.
Seems
Mhm.
like
When
that'd take a
they're
toll on the family.
Yeah, it does. So that's why we spend a good amount of time in the summer, like trying to play catch up and
Mm.
investing in our kids. And I do a lot of like running to work and then running home to a tennis match or a basketball game and then running back to work after that. And so, but we do spend a good bit of late nights, and it takes a toll on our family, but also like in my family, like ministry it's a family affair, and we do it together. So my kids are there a lot. My husband's there when he can be. But I would say, yeah, definitely just pray for the
Mhm.
campus minister, pray for the student leaders. They're juggling a lot academically and then just with their responsibilities. And, pray for outreach on campus, pray for receptive hearts to the gospel, and
Mhm.
just for gospel conversations to take place. Tangibly, for us, I talked about our coffee cart, and a lot of our campuses, we have those. So we're always looking for churches to provide coffee. We like to have the like grab and go, like excuse me, frappuccinos, or just the like iced coffee type things that we can have that are easy. Pop tarts, granola bars, those kinds of things. Like we've had so many like WMU ladies that just cover the cost of that
Mhm.
by just donating snacks and things like that we can hand out for free. That's huge. Being on campus, like come provide a lunch for us,
Mhm.
or just come and sit and meet students. One of my favorite couples is this older couple. They're retired IMB missionaries, and they come to our BCM lunch
Mm.
almost every single Wednesday. They bring international students, and they're just incredible. It's like,
Mhm.
these are the people that I want to be when I grow up. And they just come. They're just faithful to come and eat a meal with students. And sometimes it folds into a gospel conversations, but also it just is building relationship. And so
Mm.
come and be a part of what we're doing on campus.
Tiffany, how would you advise, or anything that you can tell churches that are just wondering about this generation? What is unique? How are they different than past generations?
Yeah, I think that this is something I'm about to turn 40 and I'm realizing like that gap is getting bigger and bigger even for myself and I live amongst them day in and
Right.
day out. But I don't know. I've thought about this question a lot because there's a lot of things that could be said. Obviously, we know that this generation is the highest rate of depression and anxiety.
Mm.
And there's a lot that goes into that category of meeting those needs. The thing that I look back in all generations and when I started this job, when I said I'm not smart enough, Bill said, yeah, but every college student needs the same thing.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, cool. Like, can you clue me in? Like, what
What
is
is
it?
it?
Yeah.
And he was like, they need connection. They need a sense of belonging. And I think that's true. I think no matter what they're walking through in life, whether they're dealing with depression or anxiety, or whether they just don't know whether or not Jesus is real, or whether they're just dealing with everyday life things, like they are longing to belong and they're longing to connect. And they don't really know how to do that,
Mhm.
especially the more and more of in our digital age, the more and more our connection is through a screen. Excuse me, it's getting harder to help them
Right.
do that, but they just want to belong. And I would say to the people sitting in our church pews, like, if you follow Jesus, you have everything that you need to connect with a college student.
Mm.
And it's not, you don't have to do anything special. You can say, hey, I'm going to buy groceries today. Would you like to ride along? Or, hey, what's your favorite coffee shop? Like, can I take you for coffee? They want that. They just want to belong and they just want to connect. And sometimes it's like sitting through the awkward because they're not really great at it. And I'm not great at it anymore,
Mhm.
but to like have that like eye contact and to have a like genuine conversation. There's way more credit in that than we give it. And so I would just say, do whatever you're doing in your everyday life, invite a college student along to do it with you.
Hmm.
And if that's, hanging out in your home and watching TV with your family, there's a lot that they can learn there, even in that and just the way that you interact. So
Once a year, we have all of our BCM directors together for Focus Week.
Yes.
And it is one of my favorite things to connect with them, learn so much
Yep.
from them. And thank you so much, Tiffany, for all you're doing to minister to college students. And
Thank-
we'll definitely be praying.
Yeah.
yeah,
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.